Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Wylam here. In today's video, we're going to be checking out the 23mm f2 on the DJI gimbal. So as you can see right now, I am walking indoors. I'm letting this camera do all of the work. So it's got autofocus on, it's at f2.8, and all the rest of the settings are in auto. And as you can see, it's working pretty well. I'm walking at a normal pace. I'm not trying to walk specifically for a smooth transition or smooth stepping. Instead, I'm just walking very normally to see what it looks like when we're going through this whole entire scene. So on this next clip, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be walking on the balls of my feet so that I can get a smoother stepping. So what you should see is much less jitteriness in the video. I'm being a little bit more careful, but I'm also still trying to walk at a brisk pace so that it matches what you can normally do when you're just walking normally. And here we go in through the dark section, which you probably can't see anything anyways. And then we'll be walking back out into the hallway. Now, one thing that I do like about the lens is that it focuses really well. It can focus at a distance, and I can get really close to it. Just about here is the minimum focusing distance of this particular lens. So I can get pretty darn close, but as you can see, for that close of a headshot, it's really only for specific situations. This is about normal, and I would be too far away in order to actually reach the control. So that's something that you have to think about. Alrighty, so I'm beginning my outdoor test, and this is a test with me just walking normally. So I'm right now at f4. I'm letting the cameras control everything. I also have autofocus on, so I'm just walking very normally, holding it with two hands, making it very comfortable to hold this and move along with this camera. Turning the corner right now and letting the autofocus track. So hopefully everything turns out really well. Gonna go ahead, turn around, and I'm gonna start walking back again, just walking very normally so that you can see what it looks like when somebody's holding this gimbal, and we're just walking very normally through the entire area right here. Alrighty, this time I'm going to be walking a little bit differently. I'm going to be walking on the balls of my feet, and what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to be more careful about how I walk so that the camera image should be a little bit smoother. It takes a little bit more effort to walk like this, but generally speaking, it should be less stuttery than what I just saw or what I just walked with. But this is generally how people would walk if they're using a gimbal system. I'm gonna go ahead, turn around again, and then I'm gonna walk back again, just walking on the balls of my feet, trying to make this as steady as I can while keeping up a fairly quick pace, because that's what you're expected to do when you're using a gimbal system. Now, one of the things that I do really like about this lens is the nice bokeh that you'll get. So this is at f2.8. I wouldn't recommend going down to f2 because the image just looks a little bit too soft, but at f2.8 it definitely gives a very nice image, and overall I like the focusing of it, and I think it's a really good lens. Definitely want to try to get the 16mm because that's going to allow me to get closer to the camera, and I might actually be able to do a vlogging test with that particular lens. But for the 23mm, that's just not possible. So this is the best that I can come up with so far in terms of filming myself, which is you need to put it on a monopod or a tripod in order to get it to work properly. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and add an extra test. So this is going to be what panning looks like when you're hand holding a gimbal, very steady and allowing the autofocus to work. So I'm just going through very close distance to very far away distance, and you can see how quickly the autofocus moves. This is on default settings, so obviously if you're doing video you might want to slow it down to kind of smooth out the transitions a little bit, but this is how it looks like when you're hand holding it and you're just going through the motions of panning left to right and right to left. I have panning set up specifically for how I would like to pan, and I will definitely show that in a different video, but panning is kind of its own technique, so it's pretty important to actually set it up to the way that you want it to. So to wrap up this video, I'm going to go ahead and give you some of my final thoughts about this particular lens. One of the things that I really like about this lens is the minimum focusing distance that I get out of this lens. In other words, I can get about a foot away, giving me that really close headshot. It's something that I do like to do, but it is very situational. A lot of times I'm doing a lot of solo work, so being able to focus really closely is really great for this particular lens. I definitely like the look. I definitely like the image quality coming out of this lens, so definitely really cool. Now, in conjunction with the minimum focusing distance of this particular lens is the really accurate autofocus that you're going to get out of it. It's very smooth, it's very quiet, although it is a little bit too fast with the default settings. That's something that you're going to have to definitely tweak for your type of videos, because a lot of the times it's just way too fast. One of the things that I wish Fujifilms would do is allow you to set focusing speeds for video and then focusing speed for photos, because a lot of times for photos you do want that fast focusing speed, but for video you kind of want the opposite. You definitely want smoother transitions through it, so that's something you're definitely going to have to tweak. But between fast focusing and also having that minimum focusing distance, it's definitely very flexible as a up close and personal lens. That's something that I personally really like to do, so definitely very versatile if you want to do headshots or static shots with this particular lens. Definitely one of the best lenses in the Fuji lineup for that kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to moving around with this lens, personally for me, I really like to do a little bit of post-processing if I'm going to use this lens for that type of stuff. Without any optical image stabilization, I feel like there's a little bit of jitteriness or stutteriness with it, and because of that I do like to add a little bit of post-processing just to kind of smooth it out a little bit more. Personally, a lot of people think that optical image stabilization, you can go ahead and turn it off when you have it on the gimbal. What I have found personally is that I actually like to keep it on because it just helps smooth out the whole image. It does add a little bit of motion blur, but we're already talking about video in which when you're moving around there's going to be motion blur anyway, so this is not something that you'll pick up on. What I find is that the optically image stabilized lenses, they definitely smooth out the jitteriness, the stutteriness that kind of just bothers you a little bit, but this is personal preference right here. So this is something that you're really going to have to put these lenses onto the camera, do a little bit of testing yourself and figure out what you're comfortable with. So in terms of it being an all-around lens, it's definitely very capable and there's a lot of things that it can do, but for me personally, I prefer a wider lens and I prefer something with optical image stabilization. But there is a lot of character with this. The 23mm perspective, or 35 in full frame terms, is definitely a very nice perspective, and if you get up close and personal, it does give it a very unique look. It's definitely a sharp image. I think you'll really like this lens. It's definitely worth picking up on sale or buying it used, but my recommendations to you here is definitely try out the lens before you actually buy it if you want to use it on a gimbal and for video, because losing that optical image stabilization, a lot of people don't realize how much it actually helps you for video. So I definitely recommend testing it out before buying it if your sole purpose is to actually use it just for video. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave it below and I'll definitely get back with you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.